All right, today we have Erin. Erin's going to tell us about wedding planning. Not like planning your own wedding, about facilitating the planning of other weddings.
But if you're having a wedding, please give me a call. We can work. We can work on that. Here's a business card. If you want to just pass those around.
Work for her.
There you go.
I didn't order mine yet.
For you.
All right, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you. War of the Worlds. That's so cool because I just heard the NPR did a War of the Worlds in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Did you hear it? It was so cool. It was like, oh my God, they're coming over the Highland Park Bridge. Ah! It was so cool. So thank you so much for having me. I do want to let you know that this is not a class of teaching you how to be a wedding planner because a lot goes into that. But it will give you a lot of insight and information on how to go about doing that, as well as the business aspect, which is more important than doing the planning itself. It kind of coincides. While we do our talk, I want to try to get through quickly so we have a lot of time for questions. I do tend to talk really fast, so I'll try to slow it down. But if you have questions relevant to the topic that we're on, please feel free to raise your hand or we'll be open and talking. If it doesn't have anything to do with the topic, please hold on to it until we get to the topic or to the end, just so that we can try to keep on track with everything. So, my name is Erin Calvimontes. There you go. I am an accredited bridal consultant through the Association of Bridal Consultants, owner and senior consultant of Divine Celebrations. I've been in the industry over 25 years. And I started way back when as a professional photographer when there were very few planners around at all. So when as a photographer they would always ask me, how do I do this, when do I do that, who do you know to do whatever. And when digital started coming up, we kind of dropped the photography end of it and started doing planning. I am a member of the Association of Bridal Consultants, where I have gotten my certification and accreditation. And this weekend, I'm going for my master's of bridal consultant at a conference. So I'm going to be really excited about that. I am also co-director of the Association of Bridal Consultants here in Pittsburgh and a member of the ISIS, which is International Special Events Society. I also want to thank Nate Shear, Videography, for coming. And if you guys are, obviously nobody's camera shy here, but they're going to videotape this for me to do something fun with it. So thank you. So I've put together a variety of different things just so you kind of have an idea of who I am and how I'm qualified to do this. I have earned the honor of Best Wedding from the Knot as well as Wedding Wire for 6 years running, and hopefully this year will be 2014. We've worked with and know a lot of different fabulous people. So do you guys know David Tutera? Okay, he is like celebrity wedding planner. If you guys have cable or internet, or not internet, what is his show? He's got a wedding show. I try not to watch him because it's just, talk about drama. Oh my God. And then Donnie Brown, he's actually a wedding planner in Dallas, and he has his own show. I think it's Dallas Bride or something like that. Mark Kingsdorf, he was on Whose Wedding Is It Anyway? He's originally from Philly, but now he moved down to Florida. Just some fabulous friends of mine. There's David again. My clients have also been in publication. So this is her original photo, and this is the Pittsburgh Wedding Magazine. This has also been published in World Wedding. We specialize in South Asian weddings and cultural weddings. So as a wedding planner, obviously you want to turn fab into drab, and there's a lot more that goes into it than just taking a blank room and making it gorgeous. And we're going to tell you a little more about how we go about that. So I took a lot of your questions. Thank you very much, whoever submitted them in. Because we also have done this through different classes or different other universities, I've also taken their questions and kind of built up on that. So wedding planning is very similar to stage production and management, which I thought this was funny. We do deal with a cast of characters, however, none of mine are professional. So they often go off script. They don't, they're never showing up on time. Stage settings, we have ceremonies, receptions, vendors and musicians, props, decorations and centerpieces and lighting the room, that kind of thing. Cues on mark, bridal party, making sure that everything is working well, deadlines, head counts, table counts, that kind of thing. I mean, all this stuff we have to get to our venues and linen companies a week in advance, so we have deadlines as well. And our script is our timeline. I go through a very, very detailed timeline with our clients that from the minute she wakes up, she's getting her hair and makeup done, all the way through who's picking up the guests at the venues and when they're supposed to be where and what time the ceremony starts and cocktail and all the way through the whole day. And oftentimes I will say showtime, honestly, because then I let all my staff know, okay, it's work, okay, showtime, and we just start, moving along. Job descriptions, we wear a lot of different hats because a client relies on us for just about everything with their wedding if they're hiring us for full time. So I'm their advisor with everything from color to who to use as vendors, coordinator, helping kind of shuffle things around. Their liaison, often they will email me and I'll get to communicate with the venue or the vendor florist and get the information. Supervisor, financial planner is a big one. We do help them coordinate their budgets and work well with them on that. Decorator, helping them with all their decor. Mediator, trying to calm the bride down from the mother or mother-in-law, and try to help with that. And the most important thing is that we are the experts. So we try to really guide our brides through, and you'll hear me say that a lot, you're the expert or I'm the expert, just because it's very important to, when you are in this field, to keep that in your mind so that you can work well with others. How did I get started in the industry? We kind of went over that a little bit as a photographer. And then when things started becoming more digital, we kind of dropped the photography end of it and just kept up with the planning end of it. I do, however, have ongoing education in the field, like doing conferences. I'm going to an Association of Bridal Consultant conference this weekend, taking a ton of classes. Educational courses, background in photography. I also have a background in world religion, communications, business, certifications. And as of right now, I'm the only accredited bridal consultant in the Western Pennsylvania area. When I become master, I'll be the second master in this area. So that's exciting. And going for my MBA. So the associations for education, one of you had a question of how, what education do you have? Obviously, some of the other things that I talked about, like communications is very important. Business, because if you're going to be a planner, although we do have a fabulous, fun job, you have to know how to run your business or you're not going to be successful with it. So Association of Bridal Consultants is definitely my top choice. Penn Foster, which is a online company, when you go through their initial bridal consultant course, you do get, I think, 6 months with the Association of Bridal Consultants and several other great companies that have accreditation courses that will help you through. Do you guys want to write all that down? How did I get started in my business? We kind of went over a little bit of that, but back about 25 years ago, I was doing it just part-time, but when I moved here about 17 years ago, you do have to do a little research before you get into any business. And so marketing research, the who, what, where, when, and why is extremely important because you don't want to go into a huge saturated market. You're not going to be successful. A friend of mine, acquaintance, opened his floral store right next to another very, very successful florist. I said, "Are you crazy?" He goes, "Oh, the rent is so cheap." I said, "But are you crazy?" And within 6 months, he was out of business because people would know the other person, and so he no longer is in business, unfortunately. So some of the market research I had to do was obviously who was my clients, was there a demand in my area for planners, who was my competition. And about 17 years ago, there wasn't a whole lot going on here, as David was talking to me about his wedding in 2004, right? Okay. How many professionals were in the area? And that's a very important thing because the industry is flooded with a lot of newbies and a lot of, oh, I had so much fun planning my wedding, now I want to play with yours, and they don't know what they're doing. So we don't really consider them professional, but everyone has to start out somewhere, so they certainly do have the potential to become professional. What did I need to do to become a professional, someone that was the expert at what I did? What was I going to charge? What services would I offer? Who are my clients? Where were they going to be coming from? Why would they hire me over someone else? Why would they refer me? So I have a lot of niches and different things that I offer to clients. And educational courses always. I think my company goes to at least 2 conferences every year and do things like this as well, and kind of helping out the public with education as well. Any questions so far? Awesome, okay. So researching your business marketing is extremely important. Detailed business plan. I cannot stress enough how important this is, because you need to know how far you're going to go within a month, a year, 5 years, 10 years. Where's your goal? So as you guys know, you got to set goals in doing things. A detailed business plan is extremely important. Market analysis within your area. Google has a great thing for that. Company description, like what was I going to do? What was I going to call myself? What other things in the industry was I going to service, which is coming up as well. Marketing and sales. How was I going to reach these people? Sometimes print advertisement is not always the best way for us. Wedding shows, bridal shows, for me it doesn't work. So a lot of my advertisement is on my website is fabulous, and we do have some paid advertisements, but you have to find out how are the brides going to physically find your clients. Finances, where I got all this great idea, where's all my money coming from? And the Small Business Administration is definitely a good place to go to help out with getting some information as well. Any questions? Yes.
So when you say coming up with your detailed business plan and your goals, are you sort of talking about a scope of what you want your company to be able to do and what services you want to provide?
Right. So there's absolutely, and if you actually Google business plans, they'll come up with a formula for you, but it's everything from what are my services, what am I going to be doing, what is my how much am I going to spend, how much am I going to charge, what is my projected goal, how many weddings do I think I want to handle or clients I want to handle in this year, and then and then you'll have a projection of what you did the following year, and then you'll have a better idea of, oh, okay, well maybe I'm on goal for 5 years and 10 years. And you have to revisit that all the time. It's all ever changing, because you may grow so fast in any business that now you're starting to add on employees. Well, that just totally changes your business plan, because you didn't add in any employees. It was always just you. So you have to completely redo that. How are you going to pay for them, structure that? So it's an ever-changing thing. But definitely Google it, and it'll give you a different formula for what you need. Anybody else? Excellent. Let me know when I get to a halfway point. Is it easy to transition between different types of companies as long as you stay in events? And this really depends on what your personal skills are. I am able to go for wedding planning, to bar mitzvahs, to birthday parties, and I actually produce a Pittsburgh South Asian bridal show, which is a massive undertaking. But it may depend on what your skill level is. So I went from a photographer to a wedding planner, so yes, it was almost in the same industry. But like I said before, I would not want my mechanic doing my dental work. So make sure that you have the skills to go into it, and that's why education is so important. Is it easy to go from wedding to street fair? A similar question, but this one I got a little more into details with. I just got my braces aligned, so I'm sorry. Every type of event is very different, and they have different logistical challenges. So, for instance, a wedding versus a street fair, you don't necessarily have to worry about parking for over maybe 4,000 people as opposed to maybe just 150. Outside bathrooms, logistics of where your power is going to come from. If you're on a street fair, do you bring in generators? Are you going to hook up? If it's going to be a street fair where there's businesses along, are they going to give you the power? So there's a lot of different logistics that go into that. So is it easy? No. Is it possible? Absolutely. But again, know your skill, specialize in something and do your best at it. And then obviously eventually as you get better and more expert, you'll be able to branch out into that. Any questions on that? Excellent. How long was I in business before I was able to show a profit? Every business and every company is very, very different. So I kind of put an average that on average when you start a business, usually it's within 3 years that you start actually making a profit or more. It depends. On average, after 5 years, if you're successful, you go on. If not, most companies end within 5 years. The first few years you may have a loss because you're learning your business. So you're getting into it, you've got your copier, you've got your telephone line set up, you've got your laptop, you did your website, but you still have to learn. So you're investing in all of your equipment, you're investing in your learning and education experience. The next years you may break even, but you still have to do more education. So you're still investing, I still do every year. I'm investing in either going to classes or workshops or things like that for my business. Generally within 5 to 6 years you may see a profit, and it could be only half of what you've actually taken in after expenses, because now you're paying for your website and you're paying for your advertisement and you're paying for your employee and maybe you're paying for business cards. I mean, just all this stuff really does start adding up. So this is why the business plan is really important, because it'll detail all those elements that you may need for your business. How did I figure out what to charge for events? This is always a fun question, because you need to find out how much you are worth for your time and effort. So some people are like, well, if you're not used to doing business, you're like, well, I don't know, $12 an hour is good. Okay, well, you need to kind of do the math on that. But you also need to figure out, there's several different ways to charge on doing projects. So percentage of the gross cost of the wedding, which is not recommended in the industry, because if you have a $10,000 budget on one client and a $150,000 budget on another client, you're not making a whole lot on the $10,000, but you still should, or at least I do. I treat every client exactly the same. So whether they have a $10,000 or $150,000, I'm going to do my best. And if you do a percentage, you're getting paid less for doing really the same amount of job, no matter how much their budget is. They're still needing pretty much all your services that you offer. Hourly rates can also come into play, flat fees, and then per day or per hour, per day services. You do have to do the math on that, though. And I had a sheet, and I apologize I didn't bring it. I can email it to you in case anyone's interested in knowing how to do that. What is my way of building clients? So we talked a little bit about this. Advertisement, whatever business you want to go into, Google it as if you're the client looking for it. And you'll find everything from free websites that you can put an ad into, things that come up maybe first on Google or whatever your search engines are. Those are probably the better targeted email advertisements or online advertisements. Facebook is a great one. LinkedIn, client referrals. I get a tremendous amount, but I've been doing this for a really long time. I get vendor referrals as well. My company website pulls a lot of business, and then also word of mouth. But initially, right away, I think this is a light, right? Yeah. So you're going to definitely want to start out with, the advertisement in Facebook. You got to get your information out there, because a lot of times it's not what you know or who you know, but who knows you. So it's a lot of footwork and a lot of mouth work and a lot of getting into different, visiting different industry meetings like ISIS, ABC. We don't have a cater source here, but there's a lot of different companies and networking groups out there that will also help out. What are my main type of clients? My personal client is just about anybody and everywhere. Because we've been doing this so long, we do everything from weddings. We specialize in South Asian weddings, but we've done a lot of different ethnic weddings, showers, private events, graduations, birthdays, theme parties, mitzvahs. It just depends on, maybe you may want to specialize. We have one girl who just does corporate events. She really doesn't handle the weddings. It's too much drama for her. We have someone who does just bar mitzvahs. She likes dealing with the kids and, getting all that drama and fun between the parents. Is anybody Jewish here? So you know what I'm talking about when it's between parents and adults. The bar mitzvah is not just for the kid. You have to have a happy medium between both. So she has a lot of fun with that. So some people like to specialize in just one thing. I like to help out with just about everything. Do I work out of my home or have a storefront? I actually have a designated office space in the back of my home. It's actually a studio. So clients can come in, they can see samples of things. I can have other vendors come in and visit with them. But it is a designated space. And when you do that, as a business, you do get a tax write-off on that, which is nice. What is my busiest month? That's often interesting because this time of year, everybody's like, oh, so wedding season's over. You're not working so hard. Well, actually, this is the planning time when brides are calling me for next year. Hey, oh my God, my wedding's in September. I need everything. So now is when I'm calling Nate Shear for videography help or a great florist and working with clients, booking them up, showing them venues. So our busiest time of year, although for weddings, is usually April through October. We do planning year-round. And my business being that it's my own personal business, I'm almost available 24 hours with what we do. Any questions yet? Am I going to have to start throwing candy kisses at you guys? I do. I have a whole bag. Have I ever planned an event with an unlimited budget? The most expensive event that we planned, and what was the most extravagant? The reason I put all these together is there are three of them and they're all the same exact event. So one of them I can't talk about, unfortunately. It was in Chicago. It was a high, like when we came in, they took away our phones. They took away our cameras. We had to sign a release. I can tell you that it was like a big high society, not society, but a diplomat from India. That's all I can say. But that was over the top. And unfortunately, I also don't have any pictures because they brought in their own photographers and they would not release anything. But trust me, it was over the top fabulous. One event actually doubled in less than a week. And I have pictures, I can show you that. And one event was about 1,000 people for an Indian wedding, and it went on for 3 days of partying. So this event ended up, it was first going to be only about 300 people. It doubled. Her mother passed away. And a lot of people weren't coming to the wedding just because they knew the mom was sick and was going to die of cancer. Everybody knew that, so they were like, we're not going to come. We'll just send our regards, and we love you, but they didn't want to upset the mom. Well, after mom died, literally 300 people who weren't going to show up came to pay their respects, and now we have to find a venue. This is a double basketball court. So it went from this, you can see the pipe and draping, we're kind of starting it, the table set up, all that kind of stuff. So it went from a double basketball court to this in less than a week. We had to put, you know how the lighting makes you look orange in a gymnasium? So we couldn't use that lighting, it was hideous. Brought in all our own lighting, everything, the tables, the chairs, the centerpieces, the candles, pipe and draped it so you didn't see the benches. And they had a orchestra band playing as well, so that was quite interesting. The Indian wedding, which we do specialize in, they host almost all of their people the whole time. So if you're used to going to a rehearsal and you go to a rehearsal dinner and there's only 10, 15, 30 people, and they're all family. Now these guys host half, if not more, of all of their guests for the rehearsal dinner, and it's a big to-do and dancing and all this excitement. So this was the very first time that the Omni William Penn actually set up their main ballroom for ceremony seating because it wouldn't fit in any other room with the amount of people that we had. And that same room, this was the picture I showed you. This is a barat. The groom comes in on a horse. And of course, he's got about 150 to maybe it was about 200 of his closest friends and family behind him. This was the ceremony itself. And this is now the ballroom getting set up. There I am, checking out everything, making sure it all looks good. And that's the ballroom now set up for, here I think this room was about 650, and then we had some people sitting along here, and then we utilized the other room. If you guys have ever been in the Omni William Penn, they have a second ballroom right next to it. It's crazy. Any questions? Excellent. We're gonna fly through this. So how do I deal with difficult clients? Very, very carefully. And you guys have dealt with difficult people, especially if you work with the drama people. So, first of all, again, I need to establish that I'm the expert. So although maybe they're not understanding what I'm saying, or maybe they're so headstrong that they think they can still get this done, and we kind of still need to let them know the Omni William Penn is not going to let you bring a horse into the ballroom. It's just not going to work. No, I have to. Well, okay. Inform them of how you work or what your policy is, the time frame of how things are going to go, the policy that you can't bring a horse into the William Penn, and then talk about their expectations. Like, really, let's see what else we can do. You really have to try to find a happy medium with difficult people. Sometimes they're not being difficult just because they are difficult. Sometimes they are. But oftentimes I don't think that they understand the process and what can or really can't be done. So it's really up to us to really get, you can't just say no. It's because, and you really have to explain out why. And then listen to the client. Sometimes, again, it's not because they're being difficult. They have expectations that can't be met because they have one thing in mind, and you may have a different thing. It's like, oh, okay, you were talking about that. Okay, well, we can do this, but let's go about it this way. And sometimes diffusing the situation before it starts is a big deal. Like, don't let a client, or even, you guys deal with it with friends too. They're like all dramatic about, things. You have to diffuse it and find out, get down to what the problem really is. Sometimes I get it where it's not the bride, but it's their parents pushing and asking, and why, and the parent hasn't talked to me yet, so they don't know the process of what we've been going through. Yes?
Do you find yourself, like, for example, that event that doubled in size, did you find yourself having to have a conversation with the client about finances, and here's what this means, and like, do
Absolutely.
people tend to understand that, or do you struggle a lot with that?
Sometimes we do. Sometimes we do struggle. They knew, the dad was actually quite wealthy, but because it was in a small town, West Virginia, this was the only place, like double basketball court. And the bride was like, oh my God, like she had this gorgeous ballroom set up, and she's like, how are we gonna do this? Well, first of all, trust me, because I'm the expert. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna pipe and drape, and we're gonna, and talk them through it. But oftentimes they don't know what they don't know. So it's up to me to educate them on, like with budget, how much things are going to pay, how much things are going to cost, what their expectation is for 200 people, and they only have, $200. Okay, well, that's not, I'm doing small, but that's not going to work. Like, so we need to give them a breakdown and give them reality checks on different things. But yeah, no, they don't often get it because this is the first time they've ever planned something this elaborate or had something change on them drastically. Luckily, we had some wonderful vendors, so the florist was able to help out with coming up with unique ways of helping to decorate without putting in a lot of cost. The venue had the tables and chairs and was willing to just give them to the family, so we didn't have a huge amount of rentals to come in. But there was still a lot of logistical things that literally had to change, like, completely for that wedding. But that was a good answer, a good question. Yes?
Even when it's not something like an emergency, how do you deal with having a client whose expectations say one thing and their budget sort of says another? Like, how do you talk them back into scope? Because that's something we do a lot as production managers.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of it is just giving them reality checks. Sometimes showing them different websites, showing them printed information. This is how it is. Well, I don't want to pay that much. Okay, I understand that, but you're probably not going to find, and sometimes you have to, with me, sometimes I have to, if they're not listening, it's like, okay, if you find someone, good luck. But oftentimes I don't want them to go and just find, no offense, the first college kid that just came out and he's got a great camera and he just went through class and he knows, it's like they're not experienced. I really don't want him working on your wedding, although they're cheap. So a lot of it is education and kind of showing them, what the restrictions are. But oftentimes, I still get them not understanding, and sometimes you just have to not just deal with it, and then maybe give it to the kind of put it in their court and say, okay, well, if you find someone or if you can find this, and oftentimes they can't, and then they'll come back to me and go, okay, what can we do? So who puts the most input in the planning for the client? And first, again, I establish myself as the expert. So when a client does have, their expectations or their budget doesn't fit, I'm the one that puts a lot of input in there. However, number one, again, listen to your client, because the more they can tell you, the more they can show you what they need, the better it is for me to be able to give my input and fit their needs, style, and budget. Clients give me a lot of ideas and give me their suggestions that fit into their style, and then we try to make it work within their style and budget. So, if they like a centerpiece, for instance, that is really tall and it's really big and it's like $1,000 centerpiece for 10 tables, their budget doesn't have that. We can help them with narrowing that down and make it a little smaller, maybe suggest tall centerpieces and small. So, kind of giving them some information that way. But the client always has the last say. It's their wedding. So if they want a monkey to be at the wedding and they think it's just so cute that this little thing is going to be visiting all the guests, and you say, yeah, but they smell really bad. And no matter how much you try to clean them, they really smell. And like, oh, no, but I love monkeys. Okay, honey, I'm just giving you the warning. And when your guests walk by and go, oh my God, I can't believe they have a monkey, he stinks. It's your wedding. So you try to give them the best information that you can. So oftentimes we have inspirational photos from our clients from magazines. So this was one client that gave us her inspirational photo, and this is what we did for her. So kind of sort of matches, but also within her budget, we had to work on making sure that it fit. It was just a beautiful little outdoor wedding. Have ever regretted giving someone advice knowing that I made them change their original plans? And I absolutely not, because it goes back to either budget or their vision. Sometimes they give me a vision, but they go to the florist, and the florist is so excited to work with them that they give them something totally different. And I try to give them advice, but when we met, and all your photos is very vintage, but this is more contemporary. Are you sure you want that? Oh, well, no, you're right. That's what I wanted. So we definitely want to try to keep them on track with everything. Any advice that I give, obviously, is always to the best, the client's best interest. And like I said before, it may have to do with their budget. I am absolutely their financial advisor, because money can get away from them so fast. And y'all know when you go shopping, well, at least the girls. Guys, some of them don't know how to shop. But you'll go, and all of a sudden, you'll have, you'll be shopping, and all of a sudden you have $100 in your pocket, and you only want to spend $50, and you get home and you've also, you've blown the change that was in the bottom too. So budgets can certainly get out of hand. Theme, I'm also helping with their decorator, because I'm the expert. I know what certain things will work together and what won't work together, and they just sometimes have this cluster of spaghetti in their head, and they're not sure how to sort it out, so that's our job to do. the feel of their event. Again, I'm the expert, so I want to help them when they say, oh, I want fun. I want my wedding to be elegant. Well, elegant can be a whole lot of different things. So, communicate with them and talk and try to get the best for them. And then the end result, I am their wedding planner. I'm the expert, so I do try to give them as much guidance as I possibly can.
That's your halfway heads up.
Oh, excellent. And I think we're going to go right well under that. What is the average cost of a wedding? This is really important because a lot of clients don't understand the percentages of what things cost out there. Like I said, they don't know what they don't know. So it's our job to educate them on what their wedding could cost. So across the country, on average, it's $28,000 to $35,000. Now that could go up, and it certainly can go down. But on average, we do suggest guests to spend about $140 per person. And that's including floral, photographer, videographer, DJ, that kind of thing. But it can also go up based on their expectations. If they want the big plumey centerpiece, and instead of a DJ, they want a band, well, that just tripled the cost of a DJ. So it's our job to educate them on what things are, the reality of what things are going to cost. Yes?
This with your fee as well?
Generally not. And the way I work it with clients is because I don't take any finder's fees or kickbacks, I don't get paid by my vendors. And unfortunately, that's another way you can do it, but it's not highly recommended or frowned upon. But oftentimes I'll tell a bride that I will probably save them as much money as I'm going to charge them. So usually I don't put my fees within their budget, but they may want to just because of where their budget is. They only have a certain amount. Oftentimes, that's a good question though. Oftentimes I will ask a bride, what's not included in your budget? Oftentimes the dress is not, the rings, the tuxedos, but sometimes they only have a finite amount of money, or the bride and groom are paying for it individually or by themselves as opposed to having family help. And everything has to fit in here. So it's really important for me to get all that information so that I can guide them through their budget and budgetary needs. Ethnic weddings are very, very different. With an Indian wedding, they can start anywhere between $150,000 to $300,000. It just depends on how many guests they're having, what the food is, how many days they're partying. Yes.
What's the lowest amount of money you've ever used to make a wedding?
I actually did a wedding for about $5,000, and that's not typical at all. I pulled a lot of strings, but the clients. Here's the other thing too. The clients have to be flexible. They, instead of having it at a ballroom, we had it at a park. Instead of having fabulous centerpieces made by a wonderful florist, the parents made centerpieces. Instead of having over the top, filet mignon and lobster, they did a barbecue theme. So, and they were also military clients, so we were able to get them military discounts. And they also, their expectations were not 250 to 300 people. We had about 50 people. Every year we do try to do a budget or a free wedding with clients, and we usually take a fun client that's in need, and we surprise them with that.
Can you bundle parties to save money for clients?
What do you mean bundle parties?
Do two weddings on the same day and somehow share expenses across?
That's an interesting concept, but because brides are so different, generally they don't want to share because their colors are different. Oh, I don't like roses. Like red? No, my colors are purple. And we often try to do that with church because a Catholic church, you can't take your altar pieces. You have to leave them. So if we have a wedding back to back, oftentimes my clients will try to call the church and find the clients that are getting married like after them. Hey, do you want to go in on the altar pieces? Well, neither one of them want to change their color. Neither one of them want to go like normal, muted. No, our colors are purple. Well, ours are blue. Well, can't you just change yours? Well, no. Why don't you change yours? Well, because I'm the one that's asking you to share. So no, we have done twin weddings that worked out really well because we had family from both the twins, but then the grooms had their families, and they shared their whole wedding. So, but it's rare. That's a good question though. That's a good question. Twin birthdays are fun. But yeah, usually two different brides that don't know each other. No, you can't even have a bride and in the same room see each other. It's like taboo. Oh my God, she saw me in my dress. Don't go in the bathroom. Go in the bathroom and make sure that other bride in the Omni that's on the 3rd floor is not in this bathroom. Okay, coast is clear. Okay. They don't do it.
Do vendors bill the client, or do they bill you and then you bill?
That's a very good question. Because I don't take finder's fees or kickbacks, I prefer the vendors or the service provider's contract to go directly to the client. That way they see every itemized item. They see that maybe if there's a discount that I've received, it's on their contract. I do help them keep track of when the next payment is, or who needs payment, or who's getting paid at the event itself. But generally, all contracts go through them. I have done it a couple times with clients that are out of country, and they put all their money on a Visa. That's kind of fun. You just spend their money, and then they give me the authorization to deal with all their contracts. But they get a copy of everything.
If you did that, you just pass that through that cost, or you mark that up?
With doing their contracts.
You're the one paying, and they're paying you.
Oh no.
So that cost
They're
is
paying.
marked up.
No, they give me a credit card.
So you're just spending.
I'm spending their money. Yeah, never spend your own money for somebody else. Y'all know how that, if you have siblings, you know how bad that ends up. You don't want to do it with a client. Just because, unfortunately, their intentions could be good, but if for some reason they default, and now you have to pay for the flowers because they're already ordered and they came in, and your florist is like, not my problem. I need my money. Oh, no. So I always have the clients take care of the payments, but that's a good question. So 40 to 50% of their budget will be on venue, food, and beverage. It could easily be more, depending on if it's a tented wedding and everything has to be brought in. So with a venue, a brick and mortar, usually they'll have the caterer or their cook on site. They'll have tables, they'll have chairs, they'll have linens, they'll have the silverware. At a tented event, everything is brought in, including bathrooms. So that cost goes way up. What is the most catastrophic emergency I've had to deal with, and what did I do to handle it? So in every event, something is bound to go wrong, maybe just not right or downright catastrophic. Because I am the expert, and because I've been trained, and because I've been doing this so long, oftentimes I will anticipate certain things that can and will go wrong and try to fix them ahead of time, or just watch for that to happen. However, sometimes things do happen, and you have to fix it and make it better. I cannot tell you how many times something has gone wrong. The clients never know about it. Never. Sometimes I do tell clients, oh, honey, you have no idea. And they're like, oh my God. But never, it doesn't always get to be that bad. But what would you do if you walked into the ballroom and saw this? This actually happened. The venue, that's the wedding cake. The venue was walking along, moving tables, and didn't see the cake was behind them. Bam! It hit the fruity floor. Oh my God. So me, of course, I run over and take a picture of it. Wait, this is so cool. But you have to do something very quickly. So what we did is I called the cake person. And I said, oh my God, I need a fake cake. I don't care what it looks like. Get me something, because they always have the fake cakes that they got to show and pretty. They brought me a fake cake, and there I am having her. I had a little cupcake behind the cake. We ordered sheet cakes from the cake company. Sheet cakes were in the back, ready to be cut for the cake, but this was completely fake. There's nothing real about that. Even the flowers aren't real. And there I am going, okay, this is, I walked up to her. I was like, honey, congratulations, you're married. Oh, I just want to let you know we had a little accident. And she's like, oh. I'm like, no, you got to keep smiling. And she's like, okay. I said, don't worry about it. I took care of it. This is not your real cake, though. And she didn't even notice it until I had to say something, but now it's time to cut the cake, and she's going to notice from a round cake to a square cake. So I put a little cupcake back there. I said, you guys can still do your cake cutting. Just don't cut into this cake. I put a little cupcake behind there and had them cut into it, and they were able to feed each other, and nobody really knew. No one in the whole place, although the bride and groom knew. You try to do what you can. You try to do what you can. We've had a lot of different things. But you also try to educate your clients. Yes?
Do you make the venue pay for
You know what, it was an accident. It was an accident, and I think they did take a percentage off of the client's billings for it, but it was, things happen. Things happen. But you also try to educate your client. So we had the tent event, right? So you go on site and you always site survey, especially a tent, because clients don't see that there's 3 sides of this ground that go like this, and then it's flat. And especially in July, you're just not quite sure how the weather is going to hold up. So if it starts raining, now their area where they're going to have their tent is a pool, because 3 waves have just dumped right into it. So you try educating them. Sweetie, I really, really think I know it's going to be more expensive, but you need a floor. You need a tent floor. Don't do it on the grass. Oh, but I like the way the grass looks. Yes, I understand that, but. So again, it goes back to, if they're not going to listen to you, you kind of go, and I actually have it on my contract, if they don't listen to me or if they don't choose a certain vendor and they choose to get their own person, please sign here that I'm not responsible when something goes wrong. You obviously are there to try to fix it if it does go wrong, and things do go wrong. It poured the day before this wedding. It was July 1st wedding, a couple years ago, and it poured. I mean, it monsooned the day before. The tent was already up. The lighting guy was putting lighting. It looked beautiful, except for that whole thing going down. Well, there was one area that would not dry, and it was all squishy. And so we had to try to put the table over the squishy part. But of course, when people sat down and tucked in, their feet are now all squishy. So we had to build it up with hay, because it was on a farm. We built it up with hay. We pulled a rug from the barn and we're putting it down there, but it was a real pain in the butt. And the bride's kind of going, oh, I really wish I would have listened to you. Yeah, I know. But what are you going to do? We'll try to make the best. And they did have a pretty big dance floor, so that's where most of the people ended up. Because the ground was just all squishy. So you do your best, but that's what happened there. Is it extremely stressful? And this is the funniest thing, because according to Forbes magazine in 2011, event planning was the number 2 stressful job. Number 1 was Secretary of Defense. Oh my gosh. So this is, and I tell you why, this is an interesting wedding. This is Indian and Western wedding. We do a lot of different ethnic weddings. So this wedding was at the Heinz History Center. Have anybody ever been upstairs at the ballroom of the Heinz History Center? Big room, big room. But there's only one room. And if you're doing 2 ceremonies and a reception and a cocktail hour and snacks in between with an Indian wedding, it can get a little chaotic. So the groom was outside doing his barat, and that's when he comes in on his white horse. This is the Indian ceremony. So we pipe and drape so no one could see what was behind there, which was all the tables for the reception. After that, all the guests went into the hallway for refreshments. They were able to go through the museum while we flipped the room around. And now the Western ceremony, right here is where that Indian ceremony, it's called a mandap, the structure that they get married under, is actually right about here. So we flipped it, and we flipped all the chairs and made everything fabulous, and the bride and groom completely changed their clothes, and now this is their Western ceremony. Once the ceremony was over, the guests again left to be in the hallway they went downstairs to do a real cocktail hour. So they had cocktails, and they had hors d'oeuvres, and they had refreshments, and everything started to literally come out of the ceiling. We removed the pipe and drape. From there, these balls came out, pulled the ceiling. The tables had to be moved out, all the chairs around the tables. We put a lounge couch, kind of made it a party scene underneath the Indian structure for weddings, which is not okay to do if you're Jewish. Don't do that to their ceremony structure, the chuppah, but it's okay to do it with Indian. So, I mean, this was chaotic. These balls were huge, and they were all hidden behind the pipe and drape. We moved the pipe and drape again. We're still keeping the theme with the pipe and drape around the room so we can do the lighting. But everything was literally coming off the walls. There's my assistant and husband putting the glasses for the bride and groom's table. And eventually that's how the room looked, finally. But it was about an hour and a half flip of trying to get from 2 different ceremonies to the reception in one location. There's that fabulous lounge area, the fabulous cake, which did not hit the floor. And then there's their event at night. We also had, they have a porch out there. We had a fire dancer because the groom wanted fireworks, but they were way expensive. So we're like, hey, how about a fire dancer? So those are things I can do too. Okay, I know you like fire, boom, snap, crackle, pop. We can't, I mean, fireworks are very, very expensive. And over here, it would have been possible, but we would have had to rent a barge across the street where the river was. Again, very, very expensive for only maybe 10 minutes of, ooh, ah, let's get a fire dancer. And they loved it. The guests loved it because through there's big windows upstairs, you can actually see on the porch. It was amazing. And there she is.
The fireworks number?
Sorry?
So does anybody know the fireworks number per minute? I want to say in the back of my head that Zambelli is $10,000 for every minute of fireworks.
Well, it depends if they're doing big stuff.
It's going to really change the cost of it.
Absolutely, yeah. If they're doing, Zambelli will do small stuff because they're from Pittsburgh, like the barge thing. But yeah, it would have been probably up in the $4,000 to $7,000 range with the barge and the small fireworks. But yeah, it could get serious. So yeah, exactly. You need to know what things are going to cost or do your research and never promise. Oh yeah, we can do fireworks. It'll be fabulous. And then you find out, oh, it's not going to fit in your budget. But this girl did amazing. One, yeah. Bring the sparklers, you know. Get the, what are those, the Roman candles? Pew, pew. Yeah, there you go. How is it to work with different cultures? I actually love it. I do have a background in world religions. And so we find that different traditions are absolutely fantastic and amazing. But some people may not, because if you have to do your research. If you don't know the background on a certain religion and you try to do their wedding, it could be devastating for both you as well as the client. So definitely do some research on it. But this is a Catholic ceremony at Duquesne. We've done Indian, a ton of Indian weddings. This is actually a Mexican wedding. We've done a Muslim wedding, Greek wedding, Jewish wedding. This is not a joke. It was literally a rabbi and a Catholic priest, I kid you not. And they worked very, very well together, and that was a lot of fun. And then we did a Zen wedding. Any questions? It's a lot of fun. It's so much fun. But it can also be stressful. Remember the Forbes magazine. Do I have a lot of free time? You can. You absolutely can. But I try to live by the work to live, don't live to work kind of thing. And I try to have my kids also keep that in mind as they're college student and working almost two full-time jobs and helping out their friends and not still making ends meet. But setting appointments with clients is very, very important. Also scheduling my life around my work. So sometimes I'm scheduling dinner appointments, my laundry, my day off. I have Pajama Tuesday. Oh yes, call me on Tuesday, Skype me, you will see me in probably flannels. But those are the days that okay, except for today. But those are the days that I usually get, my paperwork and things like that done. I also schedule phone calls with clients. If I see that they're, I have to edit this part. If I see that they're calling me and maybe it's during dinner time, I won't answer the phone. And it was hard though. When we first started doing the business, it was really hard because all you want to do is, hi, can I help you? Hi, can I help you? Yes, I can help you. And it just starts getting so draining. We have to schedule our vacations months, almost a year in advance, because I can't say no. Do you have the Yes, of course. So if I schedule it out, conferences, you have to schedule it. So you really have to, no matter how hard it is, you have to think you first, business second. Try, yes.
So in terms of, when a client comes to you, if they don't already have a venue, say they're working with you to find the venue, so setting the date is going to be essentially based on the venue.
Sometimes.
So how does that work out then if a client comes to you and asks you to take on their wedding if you're not sure yet when it's taking place?
Absolutely. That's a very good question because sometimes it has to do with what's available. Sometimes the client is adamant. It has to be June 15th. I don't care. June 15th, that's it. I don't care. I'm not flexible. I don't want it to be a Sunday. It has to be a Saturday. Okay. But if they are flexible, I let them know that it may have to be around my schedule. Now, I do have other staff, so I can do 2 to 3 events in one day. And if they're okay with not having me, fabulous me, show up, and they're okay with having my other staff, which are also certified planners, then we can be more flexible. Or they're okay with working it around my schedule to where, if it's September, I might only have 2 weekends available. And those are the 2 weekends we have to focus on. But sometimes it is, it actually works out better for me if they're a little more flexible, because not so much from my schedule, but for the venue schedule. And it makes it easier for me to find that most fabulous venue that fits their needs over just June 15th. And everything's booked except for the barn, But very good question. Anything else? So have fun. You are literally the life of the party, literally. And thank you so much for having me out. Does anybody have any other questions? Yes.
So you talk. Oh, actually, I'd be interested in knowing a little bit about the structure of your company and what your staff looks like. How large?
Oh, I was going to say, I can show you the picture because some of them were in one of those pictures. But it depends. My core staff, I have about 5 people. We do, however, have other planners that we can pull in, or other interns. And I use that word loosely because interns, I don't necessarily take on interns very often because I like to structure my business as being professional. However, I can have, depending on the scope of the event, I can have an intern put out favors. I can have them put out place cards, that kind of thing. But rarely do they interact with the clients or their guests. I have, interestingly enough, it's a lot of my family members. So business is family here. But we do have a lot of other people that we rely on, as well as great service providers. It's so important for you to hire the right companies that work well with others. So we might have to edit this out too, dear. Some videographers don't work well with photographers, and vice versa. They both think that they have to get the shot. And they're both colliding, and you know the ones. They're colliding and they're knocking into each other, and they all think that they have to get it. So that's where it's really important to make sure that service providers work well together, so it's a good balance, so that they're both doing a wonderful job, because the client doesn't care about your issue. She paid you guys to do the best job that you can for her wedding. Making sure that you have a good quality caterer coming on an offsite, because it's very, very important when they don't know how to handle cooking on site or bringing in food and literally setting up from nothing. That could be a disaster. I never allow a client to have grandma or aunts and uncles do potluck. It's just an accident waiting to happen, and somebody's going to go home sick. Not to mention, then it's up to me to warm up food, and I'm not kitchen help. So things like that, you do have to work into your business to be careful. Did that answer that? A little long. Yes?
I have 2 questions. The first one is, what do you think is the best way to get started in doing weddings? And the second one is, you're very, seems bride-centric.
Yeah.
What is that collaboration like, with the groom and the bride? Like, what are their needs generally, and what do they want usually, and what's the difference between the two?
Between the brides and grooms?
Yeah, I mean, how does that conversation usually go down? It seems like you are generally working just with the bride.
Here's an interesting thing, and it's very good. You guys know you're all millennials, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what they've labeled you? Well, it's interesting because millenniums are now, the brides and the grooms are very, very much together. So when I interview a client, it's usually not just the bride, it's the bride and the groom. They want me to see them both. They both have input. They both have needs, and they both want to be informed of what's going on, which I actually like, because the last thing that is my least favorite is when the groom shows up on the day of and he has no idea who anybody is. He barely knows me. He's sweating like a pig because he doesn't know what's going on, and he's nervous. I want him to be relaxed. I want him to know what's going on and how things are going to happen. I do, however, have to have a rule that if you guys, like let's pretend you guys are husband and wife, if you guys are bride and groom, let's not push it. If you guys are emailing me, I need you both to like be on the same page and CC each other so that you're not emailing me the exact same question and now I have to give different answers. Now you guys, like communication is a big deal with the bride and groom. But more often than not now, we are getting both the bride and the groom collaborating together. But then oftentimes we still get the groom who goes, just tell me when to wear my tux and when to show up. And I want to be there on the food tasting. That's important. And the business to get started.
Like maybe not your own business, but if you just want to be a wedding planner or something.
Right. Well, I mean, there's certainly several different companies out there. The first thing I would recommend is getting some sort of educational background for event planning. So, like with Penns Foster, Association of Bridal Consultants, the companies. Let's see if we can get. Oh.
It's not like you don't have a degree in event.
No, but it's important. It is important to do things like fabulous people. Okay, where'd it go? Communications, business, like getting some sort of degree in business if you're going to be going into a business yourself. And any one of these companies has a certification class. That would be my first recommendation, absolutely, bar none, because although you don't want to get into business or even hospitality, going that route, because a lot of venues like Omni William Penn and Bella Sarah right now I hear is looking for an event planner to work on their staff, but it's not what I do. What I do and what they do is very, very different. What they do is really sales. So they're going, oh yes, see our fabulous venue. Yes, this is our menu. These are our tables. These are our chairs. This is what we offer for linen. You want anything else, rent it yourself. Or sometimes they may help them that way, but they don't do what I do. So if that's the kind of thing you want to get into, that's more hospitality. But it's still nice to have some sort of background so that you can communicate with the bride. You know how dramatic she's going to be, or how what her needs might be versus a corporate dinner or a business luncheon or something like that. Did that answer your question? Was that
sure.
good?
I mean, like, should you intern or something?
You absolutely can. You absolutely can. But I would still go through some sort of education or learning process so that when you do intern, you have a little background on what, when they say, okay, call the Omni and get a BEO. You're going to go get a what? And that's a banquet event order, but you don't know that yet. But so get some sort of background in learning, and then intern, and then maybe become part-time or a full-time staffer, or go on to working in a venue or something like that. Absolutely.
So you mentioned, I think, that there's some sort of a contract that the client signed with you. And
Absolutely.
that sometimes you insert in there, that you're not liable for certain things.
Right.
Whatever. Is
Right.
that contract something that you do? Is that like an initial early on thing when you first sign on?
My initial,
Contract with them?
I absolutely have a contract with them, because although we're going to be working like buddies, I need them to know that I'm a business, and that we have, certain things that we've put in place, that we've set up, and we have, ways we do things and how we do things. And I also send them a list of, okay, this is how our planning process goes. We're going to do this first and that first. So they have that, give them the expectations. But yeah, I always have them sign a contract so that they know what we're going to offer for them, what we're liable for, what my expectations are for them. I expect them to communicate with me, even if they're communicating with the photographer themselves and they've added on a new service, or maybe they fired the photographer and they're getting a new one. I need to know this so that when I show up on the day of, I'm in control and I don't have to bother the bride.
Do people sue if the event doesn't go well?
I've never had that, thank God. But I'm sure it happens, because if something if somebody trips over the DJ's cords, Unfortunately, yes, they could sue the venue for having not taped that down. They're going to sue the DJ for not taping it down because grandma broke her hip, which was already bad anyway. They're probably going to sue me just because I told them to hire this vendor.
So you have insurance for that?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and when you're doing your own business,
Special?
it's just liability
General
insurance. Yeah, it's just a liability business insurance because I don't do tangible things. I don't cook their food. I don't have a liquor license. I don't handle liquor. I don't have a big piece of video equipment that's going to fall on someone's head if they trip over the tripod. I don't have stairs that they're going to fall down. But
That's a standing arrangement you have, it's not an event by event?
correct. Yeah, it's just business. Now, I do highly recommend my clients, depending on where their venue is, getting the event insurance for themselves. Because if the venue, for instance, if the venue is a BYOB, that means they don't have a liquor license. That means you, as the bride, or your parents, whoever's paying for the liquor, is now liable. If, God forbid, Uncle Bill, who's already a drunk, and he came to the event drunk, and he gets in a car and drives on the highway and kills somebody, or God forbid kills himself as well, you're now liable, or your family. So it's very, very important for them to get event insurance, liquor liabilities, just a CYA.
Do planners have turf? If you want to work with a venue or work with a vendor, are there people that you have to go to?
Well, as far as with a venue, they have their salespeople, but most, I think venues, their salespeople do have their favorites. But if I'm bringing them a job, they're certainly not going to say no. And vice versa. There are some venues that know that we specialize in South Asian weddings, and they don't want to deal with it because it's organized chaos. And they're like, oh, no, call her. So, no, we're a pretty friendly group, right?
Would you do a wedding for friends or for family members?
That's a very good question. No. I have a very, very strict policy. My niece did I tell you about this? My niece is getting married. And she called me, she said, oh, Aunt Erin, I'm so excited. I said, I am too, I'm so happy for you. I will absolutely be there. When's the date? I'll mark it off. I just want to let you know, I can't plan it. I give you someone, I will absolutely give you a name of someone who will do an amazing job for you. But I don't want the drama of the family. Because they have expectations of you that if you can't fill it, it's different because they didn't hire your family. You're supposed to be, and it can just end up very, very bad. So I don't do family and I don't do friends. I don't even usually go to weddings. Just because I have CDO, which is OCD, but the letters are in alphabetical order. So I'll sit there and I'll watch. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing that. Why didn't anybody help her? And I'm the one that's getting up or having my husband hold me down. Don't get up. But I have to, I can't let that happen. So I don't even go to weddings. But family and friends, in fact, I did suggest a wonderful planner for my niece. But yeah, it gets ugly.
Did you do your own wedding?
I did, and I absolutely hated it. So I'm certainly not one of those, I had so much fun planning my wedding. I didn't like it at all because I didn't have anyone guiding me. I wish I had a planner. Oh my gosh. And I had a lot of input from family. And it was with certain ethnic groups. My husband's family is from Bolivia. Their suggestions are not suggestions. This is what's going to happen. And it was difficult for me to enjoy that process. I wish I had a planner.
Are there things that people think are important that turn out not to be important?
Oh, always. Yeah, always. I can't give you.
I know for my wedding, we went over and over and over what the food was going to be, and in the end, I didn't care because it's my wedding. I didn't even eat.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I have to say food is important because if you have bad food, there's a couple things that people will remember. Good and bad food, good and bad bar. I'm like, they had a cash bar, I can't believe it. And the entertainment. I mean, if it's not happening and you're not enjoying yourself, you're going to remember that. but is it so much that you're going to, go way over the top about it, and then after, either you could have had the chicken or the chicken or the lobster, and either way it's going to be fabulous. Yeah. I'm trying to think of other things. It'll come to me. I mean, there's always something that the bride is like so obsessed about, and it's like, really? It's a sash for a chair, like it's the bow. Who cares? But they do. So it's up to us to make sure that we try to help them out as much as possible, and help their eccentricness. Yes.
Do you see a change in how weddings, the structure of them are? Because my brother's getting married, and he
Have him
and
call
his
me.
fiance, they're in California.
We travel coast to coast. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
And they aren't. And another friend of mine is also getting married and having the same thing, where they don't have a reception. They have like a general cocktail hour, and then it's like an unofficial, hey, we're all going to this bar thing.
Oh, cool.
Where
Yeah.
it's not a planned thing, but it's just kind of a go if you want
Yeah.
to. Is there a change in how our generation is running weddings?
A little bit in some areas. Here in Pittsburgh is a little behind the times often, and it's not a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing, because when everybody else around the whole country was dipping in the recession and they were crashing and burning, Pittsburgh, because it was behind the times, was still kind of like floating up there. We're okay. So it's a good thing. But in California, we're seeing it. New York, absolutely. They're doing a lot more cocktail-style receptions, excuse me, as opposed to the big shebang. And it's not necessarily a budgetary thing. It's just the style. The bride and groom are more club-type people. They don't want to sit down. They don't want formalities, and they don't want the first dance and bouquet toss. A lot of brides are foregoing even a wedding cake itself, and just doing a sweets table. So yeah, there's a lot of things changing around, as well as LGBT weddings. They have a totally different way. They actually do their cocktail hour before the ceremony usually, just because they're so happy that they can get married. They are getting right into the partying. So
It's going to have to be liquored up to get through the ceremony.
well, some parents, but no, the world is ever changing, and so is this industry, which is going back to the educational part of it. The traditions and how things, what new trends and things like that. It's always changing, and how people are doing things. So you definitely have to be open to, yes, okay, the ABCs of wedding, but now your clients want to throw in a couple other letters and change it around and spell something different. You got to be open and flexible. If not, that's okay. I mean, there are some people that I don't even want them, I would never hire them for an LGBT client because of their beliefs, and that's fine, that's you. And if that's who you are, and you don't want to change from the ABC of wedding, don't take the job. Because it's not, you're going to be horrible, they're going to be horrible, and you're not, it's not going to be happy for either you or the client.
Have you run into problems with venues like the Pitt Cathedral or Phipps, where there are events back to back to back, and if they're not both yours, do you deal with that in advance with the other people, or you just assume that they will be gone when they're supposed to be gone?
It depends on the venue you're working with.
Cathedrals, like they do a wedding every half hour or something.
Well, yeah, every 45, they allow you 45 minutes. They are exceptionally good at moving it, and they're exceptionally good at letting the bride and groom know you only have this much time. So they also limit what you can bring in. There's no, crush or, runner, as it were. You can't do a lot of floral in there. They only allow you, I want to say it's 45 minutes ahead of time. The bridal party can come or the decorator. You have a half hour for the ceremony, and I think they allow you, I want to say another 15 minutes or a half hour for photo, something like that. And then now you do have the option of buying 2 spaces if you want to extend that. But luckily the campus too is so beautiful that they can go around and take pictures elsewhere.
Like you wouldn't have an advance meeting with another planner to make sure that things are going to be worked out between?
No, because, well, especially with the Heinz Chapel, they have their own people in house, and they really run a tight ship. Half the time, I don't even need to be there to help out with the rehearsals or anything, because they do a very good job with it.
Anything else? That's the end of the time.
Yay! Well, thank you. This was a lot of fun. I hope this helped you guys out. You have my cards. If you have any questions, email me. Let me know where I know you from. We also do have a Facebook, Divine Celebrations Pittsburgh. You can go on there and like me, and then see some fabulous photos. And then I emailed last night or Facebooked. Can't wait to something about, like, I'm excited to go and be a guest speaker at CMU, and like 25 people were like, yeah. What are you doing? Where are you teaching? There's a teacher here. I can't remember her name. She's like, what are you teaching on? What are you speaking on? I work there. Oh, good luck. They're fun. But thank you so much. And again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to email me. Thank you. And thank you, Nate Shear Video.